A lot of wildlife being displaced from all the development that we're creating needs somewhere to go.
We want to make sure to lessen the impact to the habitat with the green roof and the new plantings going around the building.
All of the waste or spoil material that was excavated has been stockpiled in here.
Hi, I'm Candace Ng, and you're watching The Sustainable Region. Today, we're at Colony Farm Regional Park, and as you can see behind me, this park is pretty close to the Port Mann Bridge Highway 1 Improvement Project. Because of concerns of potential damage to fish habitat during the construction phase, Colony Farm was chosen as the site of a wildlife compensation program to enhance opportunities for fish habitat in this park. The cleanup effort is underway after 3.5 years of work at Colony Farm Regional Park. Finishing touches are being put on a habitat restoration and enhancement project designed in partnership with Metro Vancouver. It's being undertaken as part of the Port Mann Bridge Highway 1 construction project to compensate for any environmental impact.
This is a very exciting project that we have been involved in a collaborative process with Metro Vancouver to develop about 4.5 kilometers of new channel and fish habitat and wildlife habitat here on the east side of Colony Farm Regional Park.
These side channels and ponds are experiencing tidal flows for the first time since the area was diked as farmland 100 years ago.
For the last 100 years, the only exit for water from this part of the park has been through a pump station. And so that doesn't allow fish to access these channels behind us. So having fish access into all of these channels greatly expands the amount of habitat that's available.
Back in the day, this would be the only developed land. Now, of course, we have communities and industrial sites developing around, and so in turn, we're turning this now back into undeveloped land. That's important because a lot of wildlife being displaced from all the industry and all the development that we're creating needs somewhere to go.
The project also establishes new habitat for a rich variety of birds and other creatures by planting native species and discouraging invasive plants that have become a challenge in the park.
So what about these plantings down here?
The bright green areas, for instance, are covered with a substance called hydroseed, a mix of mulch, fertilizer, and native seeds, specifically formulated for Colony Farm.
These native plants and streamside vegetation are very important for warblers and other species that depend on this area in the spring and the fall to support them on their way north or south.
It's hoped that park visitors will not only appreciate the new views, but also the wildlife that should be attracted to this newly enhanced area.
It's a very popular park and growing in numbers for sure as years go by. People do come down here to look at the wildlife, to run, jog, hike, and just in general to reconnect with nature.
We all have too much stuff. But getting rid of it in a sustainable way is tough. Like all that old sports gear or that leftover paint that can't go to the landfill. Metro Vancouver's new We Recycle app turns your iPhone into a reuse and recycling powerhouse. It'll find the nearest place for your stuff to go. Simple, sustainable. Everything has its place. We Recycle, now available in the App Store.
Birding is a favorite activity here at Colony Farm, and some say it's actually the fastest growing hobby in the country. All you really need is a pair of binoculars, a bit of patience, and some knowledge. Birding is a hobby that's encouraged in all the regional parks as a way to get people out enjoying nature and enjoying the health benefits of being in the great outdoors. That's the idea behind events held regularly in parks featuring the world of birds, especially when there's the opportunity to engage kids and hopefully instill in them a love of nature that they'll carry through to their adult years.
Even though the topic was birds at the Burnaby Lake Nature House, it was buzzing during spring break 2012.
Kids on their spring break are coming down to the Nature House today to find out a little bit more about birds and probably build a birdhouse and take it home with them so they can start bird watching in their own yards.
Yeah. So you want to finish all your coloring first, definitely.
Using milk cartons, scissors, and a stick, the low-tech bird feeder craft paired artistic pride and practicality. It was part of the free birding activity at Burnaby Park's north entrance off Winston Road.
In the Nature House, we have a variety of different little displays about birds. So we're also dissecting owl pellets to see what owls have been eating.
Outdoors, the activities were all a short walk apart.
Up on the viewing tower, we have a little display about eagles, and you can look for the eagle nest that's here at Burnaby Lake. And then a little walk around a loop trail, and we've hidden some bird nests that will help you identify what kinds of birds make different shapes of nests.
I think events like this where you can actually see the bird's nest and see skulls and beaks and see the live birds and draw them, and all of that is only going to foster that interest, so I think it's wonderful.
And the big ones, they're for wood duck.
Being able to get over 100 people today is really, really worthwhile. It's clearly something that people like and enjoy, and lots of the people today have said they're coming back. Lots of people know, okay, that's a duck, but actually being able to know that's that specific kind of duck is kind of exciting.
Where do these birds live?
Well, they live lots of different places. There's wood ducks. Did you guys see the wood duck nest? They nest in that box right up in that tree over there.
It's low cost and increasingly popular. Between 2001 and 2006, U.S. Fish and Wildlife reported an 8% increase in birding. The number of Audubon Society Christmas bird counting events climbs every year, pushing the total well over 2,000. And the movie The Big Year recently brought birdwatching to the big screen.
A lot of people really like bird watching, being able to identify a bird, put a name to it. It makes them feel familiar. They say, oh, I know what that is.
As an easily accessible outdoor activity, the fitness aspect has appeal. But for some, photography is what snaps them up.
There's a lot to it, like trying to get them in motion and everything else, and to get more detail in the birds and the coloring and all that stuff. So a lot of people don't realize it, that we got such a great habitat, you know, and there's so many birds do come here, and yeah, you get to appreciate it.
Whether bird paparazzi or budding birder, the sense of connection with nature makes them all birds of a feather.
Robin, chickadee, blue jay, and I think that's all.
City life can be hectic, but it doesn't have to be. An escape is nearby in Metro Vancouver Regional Parks. Peaceful, relaxing, restorative. With 21 regional parks in Metro Vancouver, there's a place in nature for you. Go to www.metrovancouver.org to find a regional park program near you. Waking up to the sound of birdsong in the spring is one of the many pleasures Mother Nature gives us this time of year. But what bird is it that's making that sound? Here are some tips on how to recognize some of the more common flying divas in our parks.
What could be a prettier soundtrack for a walk in the forest than the sounds of birds singing in the trees? Hi, I'm Peter Lawrence, park interpreter for Metro Vancouver. And what sounds like beautiful birdsong to us is really a collection of threats, challenges, warnings, and seductions. Early every spring, someone's going to ask me about one song in particular, the black-capped chickadee. You hear it everywhere, in the forest, in your neighborhood, sometimes in your backyard. It sounds sort of like Phoebe or I'm pretty. Think of it as good old-fashioned advertising. Hey, sweetie. But it can also mean, hey, get out of here. This is my territory. Bit of a mixed message, isn't it? The more familiar Chickadee Ed Call is made when the birds are in a flock or when they see a sign of danger. In fact, studies have shown that the more Ds at the end of the call, the greater the perceived threat. And that's easy to remember because Chickadee is for danger. Here in Metro Vancouver, robins can be found year-round. In the spring, their early morning song is almost as predictable as your alarm clock, and a whole lot prettier. You can remember it by its delightful whistle. Cheerily, cheery up, cheerio, cheerily. And then there's the white-crowned sparrow. When I was a student at UBC, that song was a sure sign of spring exams, but somehow I still like it. When the weather warms up, listen for them singing, "See me, pretty, pretty me." As their name implies, they have a white striped head that reminds me a lot of a fancy cycling helmet. If birdsong is the symphony of the forest, then the Pacific wren is the opera singer. These little birds can sing up to 30 notes in 1 second. They're just small brown birds that fly around the forest floor, sticking their tails straight up in the air. The soundtrack along the marshy edges of Burnaby Lake wouldn't be complete without the Ecology song of the Redwing Blackbird. Males look like what you'd expect from their name, blackbirds with red on their shoulders. They love to sing, puff out those shoulder patches to attract the drabber females. If you find yourself asking, who was that masked bird? You may have encountered a common yellowthroat. Like the Lone Ranger, they have a distinctive black mask and a theme song that goes witchity, 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 witch. Listen for it coming from the shrubs along the marshy edges here at Burnaby Lake. I know it seems like a lot to remember, but if you just spend a little time watching and listening, soon you'll be hearing old friends all around you. And remember, wherever you are in the region, there's a park just waiting for you to explore. From Metro Vancouver, I'm Peter Lawrence.
Seeing a snowy owl is a rare treat, usually reserved for people who live in the far north. But every so often, these magnificent creatures venture farther south. Nobody really knows why, but whatever the reason, a recent stay at Boundary Bay Regional Park caused quite a flurry of excitement in the birder world.
The packed parking lot at the south end of 72nd Street in Delta early in 2012 was the first sign that something special was happening here at Boundary Bay Regional Park. Large numbers of photographers were the second clue. And the object of their fascination? It's a snowy owl, one of a good-sized group that decided to winter here after the long journey south from the Arctic.
Well, we've got snowy owls down from the Arctic this year, and that's a little bit unusual because they only come every 4 to 6 years. This is one of the years where we've got what's called a flight of snowy owls, so we're all very excited to see these large white owls from the Arctic.
It's ended up on social media, and so what we're seeing are people coming from Washington State, from Minnesota, and then the local community from Vancouver and Delta. It's a phenomena that may last for only about 2 or 3 months of the winter, and then they'll be gone back up north to their breeding grounds.
Metro Vancouver Park interpreters were on site often during the snowy owl's visit, offering education about these beautiful creatures.
Silent flight. Well, we're telling them a little bit about the snowy owls and their adaptations, what they need for survival. These animals have traveled a long distance. The animal needs to rest. It's got to keep itself warm during the cold evening night where our temperatures are going down below zero, and that takes a lot of energy.
Birdwatchers say this rare visit draws attention to the value of this land as important habitat.
The snowy owls are very visible. They're very exciting and interesting to see because they only come here sometimes. But the whole area is incredibly important for birds and other wildlife, and it's the habitat that is the most important to keep.
We've got more this year than I've ever seen. There's about 24 in this little area right here. People love to see them, and I've never seen this many people on the dike either. So it's publicizing Delta, my birding paradise, so we're pretty pleased.
This is about half the population of Canada's western sandpipers actually flock through here on their way south.
No passports. It's an important bird area designated by the United Nations. And as you see, it's a beautiful habitat, and to have this many species in such a small area, we're very pleased that the groups from Washington are coming to patronize and enjoy the paradise that we've enjoyed for many years here.
Well, we saw, I counted 17 snowy owls, and just now was watching a short-eared owl. That was beautiful. I mean, it's been 5 years since I've seen snowy owls. I know a lot of times they're on this side of the border, and that border slows us down.
If you didn't see the snowy owls this time around, your next chance won't likely happen till the winter of 2016 at the earliest.
Daily life can be the same old, but it doesn't have to be.
This wildlife tree behind us?
Discoveries are nearby in the park programs of Metro Vancouver Regional Parks. Informative, inspiring, rewarding. Dozens of park programs are scheduled all year in Metro Vancouver's 21 regional parks. Go to www.metrovancouver.org to find a regional park program near you. Preserving bird habitat is something that's taken very seriously in all of Metro Vancouver's regional parks. The designers of a new concession building that will open at Boundary Bay this summer had to take that into account. Not just protecting bird habitat, but actually enhancing it. Piece by piece, the new concession building at Centennial Beach in Boundary Bay Regional Park is slowly taking shape. It's a project that's been more than 4 years in the making. And by the looks of the old facility, it's long overdue.
I think it's going to be a significant improvement. The old facility is very outdated. It doesn't have the capacity to serve the kind of crowds that show up here in the summer.
In the last decade, we've had more than double people. Almost 1 million people a year come to Boundary Bay Regional Park, and most of them come to Centennial Beach.
The old beach concession was situated very close to nearby homes, forcing residents to deal with a noisy influx of almost 500,000 people during beach season. The new building is farther north, and more importantly, it's very close to the park's newest attraction.
It's located right beside the new playground. It's a really popular playground. And so parents and caregivers can sit and have their coffee on the patio there and watch their kids play.
The playground is fully accessible, and so is the new concession, with ramps designed to allow users on wheels to get up to the concession area, which had to be raised above the level of the floodplain. The impact of construction on wildlife habitat was also taken into consideration.
Boundary Bay is on the Pacific Flyway, which is one of the biggest migration routes for birds in North America. We want to make sure to lessen the impact to the habitat. With the green roof and the new plantings going around the building, we're going to increase the habitat of the park. They look like basically a beach in the sky.
At 4,400 square feet, the building is twice the size of the one it's replacing and includes many green features such as high-efficiency plumbing, mechanical systems, and solar thermal hot water heat from panels that will eventually be installed on the roof. Natural heating and cooling is a key element of the building's design.
Instead of enclosing a whole lot of space and then heating and cooling it and ventilating it, all these things that require energy, we're using more passive techniques to use what's at our disposal here on site, such as a lot of sunshine, especially in the summer, and actually a pretty significant wind on site that we can use to ventilate the building. The building also incorporates this deep overhang that's there to sort of prevent the sun from getting in the building in the summer, but allow that low sun to get in the winter.
Few would argue the building's location, with the concession area overlooking a spectacular panoramic view.
Having a little enclosed seating area in the building is going to improve its use into the shoulder seasons when the weather gets a little bit colder around here. We can still keep the concession operating and still serve the people that do use the park year-round.
It's hoped the new concession will be up and running before beach season in 2012. The Capilano Water Utility Project is by far the largest project currently underway at Metro Vancouver. Bringing water from the Capilano Reservoir to the filtration plant at Seymour and then delivering it back again once it's been cleaned is an impressive undertaking. It's also led to an innovative wildlife enhancement project in a very unlikely place.
Most of the work undertaken by Metro Vancouver is designed with people in mind. Projects to improve our water supply, sewage treatment, regional parks, and solid waste management all help the natural environment to some extent. But their primary goal is delivering benefits to the human inhabitants of our region. This project, however, is a bit different. The landscaping and site remediation work going on here won't result in a park for people.
We're in the Lower Seymour Conservation Reserve, and we're 4 kilometers up the valley from Rice Lake. This area was a gravel pit in the past. It was used for the construction of the Seymour Falls Dam in the early 60s. And it was a good site for current construction activities.
All of the waste or spoil material that was excavated or mined out of the tunnels between here and Capilano Lake has been stockpiled in here.
Putting a gravel pit and muck dump out in the forest might not seem environmentally friendly, but using this site had a big impact on heavy vehicle trips and exhaust emissions in the community. It's estimated nearly 50,000 dump truck trips through the North Shore have been eliminated by choosing this location. Now the site is undergoing another transformation. A small portion will remain an active gravel pit, but roughly 80% will be returned to a natural state.
What we're trying to achieve here is a little bit of everything, partially reforested, an open wetland area that provides habitat for different bird species, place for animals to water, as well as the open grassland, which will provide grazing area for black bears and the deer species that we have in the valley.
When the site was cleared for use as a gravel pit, the woody debris was stockpiled for use during the reclamation phase of the project.
As the lake level rises, these logs will float, but we're never going to lose them out into the lake. They'll always be attached to this one point. So the reason for putting the logs here was to add some areas for amphibians to lay their eggs, and they hang their egg clusters off the ends of the logs.
Amphibians will be just one of a few species using the lakeside habitat.
So we've got some great blue heron tracks, some killdeer tracks, as well as some black-tailed deer tracks over here in the sand. So the heron are using the site mainly as a feeding ground on some tadpoles that are already growing up in here. The killdeer and the deer are both using it as a site for watering, and the deer would also be eating some of the grass species that we've planted around the edge.
The site reclamation mimics the natural progression that might follow a forest fire or a landslide.
So this would be the first plants that come back after a disturbance. And alder is especially good because it can make its own fertilizer. There's little orange nodes that grow here, and they actually make nitrogen so it can grow in these really nutrient-poor soils. And eventually the leaf litter that falls off every year from these plants will help the soil level build up and help other species of plants move into an area.
The lake is the focus of the site, but other areas of the project will also attract various species of wildlife. This clover field will be a popular spot for the bears and the bees.
One of the other activities that we've incorporated into the restoration of the pit is the construction of this bee enclosure that you see behind me. So we've brought bees in just to help with the general pollination of the plants in the area. And because it's an area that's frequented by bears, we've decided to make the enclosure as bear-proof as we possibly can, which includes a concrete floor as well as completely enclosed by chain link, including the roof.
Continuing growth in our region means ongoing pressure on animals and natural habitats. But as this project demonstrates, careful planning can create a wildlife-friendly environment in an unlikely place.
That's all the time we have for in this episode. We hope you enjoyed learning about some of the wildlife ecology in our park system. You can watch and share any of our videos online anytime you like at metrovancouver.org/videos. Let us know what you think about any of the stories on today's show or share ideas for an upcoming episode. Call us at 604-436-6794 or email sustainableregion@metrovancouver.org. For the Sustainable Region, I'm Candace Ng. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.